ongoing as time goes on. But I'll turn it over to you a little bit later, Brad, in the conversation. All right, this is our Thursday morning Upper State Street Regional Action Plan call, 10 a.m. on January 27th. It's almost the end of January. Time does fly. So first, what I'm going to do, we are without Barbara today. She's with family. So you have me and Jeff to answer questions, as well as Rich to facilitate the conversation. As well as we're missing Eric Friedman today, council member. He had a meeting conflict, so I'll be providing a brief update on conversations with La Cumbre project management as well. And I'll also be turning it over to Brad and Al shortly to share just a couple updates about what it's looking like over at the Rose Garden Inn, what that process of move out will be like. I'm sure it is quite frenzied and quite busy over there. So to get us started, CityNet won't be able to provide that full range of data updates today because Emily is at the Rose Garden Inn with all of her case managers making it happen. But we'll be able to report ongoing data conversations and about specific clients. Even after that project closes, CityNet will be available to do outreach, to report on data, and the whole bit. So they'll be with us next week and the weeks to follow. The first thing that I did want to debrief us on and share about was Barbara's in my site visit to the Upper State region last week. Last week was the third week of the month, so site visit week. So we headed out at 10 a.m. last Thursday to walk the La Cumbre, Hope, La Rada region, as well as the alley connecting the 7-Eleven and the Denny's, and checked out the Denny's parking lot as well. Due to some slight miscommunication, we weren't able to do outreach to all of the vehicles on Hope with the safe parking case manager, Elmer, like we had planned to, but he ended up doing some outreach on his own, and we've rescheduled outreach together for February. So we'll be walking, visiting those vehicles, continuing to connect, continuing to offer services, and connect individuals to safe parking case management, whether it be RV lots or other safe parking lots for nighttime parking, continuing to extend those opportunities to folks. But safe parking does have spaces. I couldn't give you a rundown of all of them right now or what they have available, but definitely still looking to fill spots in various safe parking lots. So please continue to reach out to myself or to Barbara to make some referrals if there are individuals of concern. You can also, again, use encampment links to report if there are individuals of concern to you or people that might need assistance. As we did our site visit, though, in the Denny's parking lot and in that back alleyway, I want to give kudos to where kudos are due to CityNet and to law enforcement for all of their hard work and attention to keeping those regions clean and organized, because they look incredibly clean and tidy. The Denny's parking lot, even that area behind the dumpster, which I know has been an area of concern, looked clean and spotless. So I appreciate that attention and focus from both law enforcement, really monitoring that region, really making sure that that activity is kept to a minimum, as well as I know Al has walked that area more times than any of us probably. So as we walked the alley, Barbara and I did give business cards to a few business owners, but encountered no individuals on our walk, no individuals in the Denny's parking lot, no individuals in the back alley, but again, did make ourselves available for conversations should business owners have concerns and need to reach out. And at the 7-Eleven, we did see some signs of folks perhaps residing. I'm not sure how recently, and Al might be able to speak to some regularity of folks jump in the fence behind 7-Eleven to sleep in that back alley. But again, saw no individuals, but also made ourselves available to 7-Eleven management through some business card handoffs just to keep the conversations open. But again, I think a lot of the way this region looks now is due to CityNet and law enforcement's attention. So I want to definitely lift that to the group. But next week is our community concerns conversation. So As we head into that week, we'll be able to talk about some regions of increased priority, or if there are regions that you see as residents, as business owners, as areas of ongoing concern, please do bring those to our attention over the course of this week so that we can pick a location for a site visit. In addition to doing our outreach with safe parking case management, we do want to be able to visit regions that are perhaps looking like hotspots to you or areas of concern. So we'll be talking a little bit more about those areas, as well as providing some updates, hearing some updates today on encampment reporting from Chris, who I'll pass it over to in a couple minutes. Saw minimal individuals in Mackenzie Park, saw 5 folks who normally hang out there. So again, a lot of kudos to the folks doing the hard work of showing up to keep those regions organized. I do want to give Brad or Al the opportunity to share a little bit of what it's looking like over at the Rose Garden Inn, what the process will be of moving folks out. No need to share any specifics about particular clients, of course, but just want to give you the chance to share. I know, Brad, you're going to be there shortly, so it really is all hands on deck, but go ahead if there's anything you'd like to share.
I'm going to toss it to Al if he's available. He's going to have a little bit more of a hands-on if I was not expecting to see him. So Al, are you here?
Yeah, I'll be here briefly. I can give a brief update. I'm going to be heading to the Rose Garden here fairly soon, but something just came up at my units where I'm at. But yeah, so overall the moves are going smoothly. You know, of course, it's a very, very difficult time for many of the, the clients. Just the fact, especially, that they've, a lot of them, they did their part, their document ready, all those things. One thing that came up that's a little bit made it a little wrench in there, but it changed up some things. But we got a couple extra people going to the Salvation Army. It's a good thing because of PATH currently being unable to take any intakes. So that made it a little bit more difficult. A couple of people, decided just to, go to the street until that opportunity comes open. Catherine and I at PATH are working very close to hopefully get that. Once, the lift is taken, that we can bring someone, our clients over there, then we're definitely, going to make that happen. I was there till I actually went there at midnight last night, just to, on the team to check in on the out, let them know that we care, and at the end of the day, we're going to continue providing the services to them. And overall, the positive thing out of this is the fact that they want to continue working with us. Which like I said, many of them are literally waiting for the 4 walls to open up to be able to have that opportunity to be permanently. So it's a struggle to get.
I had a hard time hearing. Who is closed right now?
The intakes, because there's a COVID outbreak at PATH.
Okay, PATH. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so yeah, that happened there. But one beautiful thing that happened, literally, a client that was going to exit yesterday. It was just, it's tough, when the tears are shedding, and it's a difficult time, not sure where they're going to go. And 7 p.m. last night, we got a unit for them. So it was like, I got to make that phone call after, having a half an hour talk of just tears and difficulty, and do my best just to be there for support. I was able to make that call after. And, I slept very good last night after that. So I'm very, very thankful. One in strong to today, just knowing that it's another difficult day, but we're there to support them. Continue doing what we do here at Sydney.
Thanks so much, Al and Brad, for all of the support that you're offering to clients as the project closes. Any questions? If you have questions for CityNet, please do throw them in the chat or raise your hand now, just so that we can have those questions raised. But if there are no questions immediately, I do want to pass it over to Chris Clark to share some updates, share some data reports from the City Encampment Link.
All right, thank you, Kayla. Everybody hear me okay? And hopefully you guys can see 2 windows right now. I'm gonna go ahead and make the PowerPoint a little bigger. So I think this data is probably the same as the last time we took a look at it for the last quarter. I want to go through that real briefly. This kind of gives you a rundown of the various different wraps in the city. Upper State Street, the last fiscal quarter, we saw 19 reports. And I'll go ahead and dive right into that. So 12 of those were inhabited encampments, 6 were individuals in need, and 1 uninhabited encampment. At this point, all of these have been resolved, but I just want to give you a look at the last quarter. And then I want to actually show you guys something new that we're working on. We're kind of transitioning things into a newer GIS-based system. And this is actually going to be the current fiscal quarter. So everything from this last month that's come in. And you can see the wraps all overlaid on the map and the different reports that have come in. You can see we've got inhabited encampments, uninhabited encampments, individual need, and then various different items that get submitted in as well. You can see bulk of the issues still kind of in the downtown waterfront area, and then we can come up to the Upper State Street wrap. And in this case, we actually have 2 reports so far this month. Both of those were individual in needs. And then there's one inhabited camp, just kind of on the outskirts there, over by the city boundary. But that's what we've got so far this month. I want to encourage everybody, if you see an encampment or an individual in need, please do use the reporting links that I've put in the chat so that we can get out and try to resolve stuff. But hopefully this is an indication that things are improving.
Great, thank you, Chris. I see Lorraine on the call as well. Folks, if you've got questions for Chris or Lorraine, please do feel free to jump in. Great question.
Can I just make a comment that's
Yeah.
incredible? I love the GIS approach and the overlays and being able to look at the data, and it really highlights the positive work that's been done, and really applaud this whole approach right there, and really thank you.
Yeah, I totally second that, Kristen. And yeah, I like being able to see geographically where those data points are. It's extra helpful information for sure. I do want to raise Jane's question to the group. When the encampments are broken up, where do individuals go? It's my understanding that encampments are not currently being broken up as when a report is made, it doesn't automatically mean that an encampment is being dissolved, but maybe Brad or Al or Chris want to speak a little bit more to that. And then we'll go to Marilyn's question as well.
Yeah,
If you want to start it, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just go through kind of what the workflow is for an encampment report. So if an encampment report comes in, myself or other city staff will go out and check on the location, attempt to make contact with the residents there, offer them whatever kind of shelter may be available, see if they're interested in shelter. And that kind of sets up 2 different pathways. If they're interested in shelter, we pursue that. If they're not interested in shelter, the encampment's posted with a 72-hour notice for cleanup. And after that point, if they're still there and they're in violation of our illegal camping ordinance, they can be cited for that. Otherwise, they're asked to take their personal belongings with them and leave the trash. We clean up the trash at that point. We're looking forward to this coming month with CityNet coming back in, because that'll have us additional outreach resources to help us try to pursue more of the getting people sheltered route. But those are the 2 routes that we have.
I'll jump in real quick, just to add that an example of what happened today, just a question about reporting someone in need. And my understanding has always been that as opposed to an encampment, you just see somebody out in the street that you feel needs the attention of a service provider. That's the reporting link for that. And that comes to me, and I refer to CityNet. An example of that this week. I got one this week for an individual that needed assistance, and I passed that information to not just CityNet, but to our South Coast outreach team. There is a weekly group of individuals that are service providers and members of Be Well and other county organizations or departments that also do outreach, and we relay that information and send out somebody to see if they can find that individual. Sometimes they don't find the individual, sometimes they find somebody else. Sometimes it turns out it is one of their clients, so they address it. So that's kind of an example of those two systems.
And I do want to add that outreach is part of all of our procedures for any cleanup that we have. That's the first thing we're doing, whether it be CityNet, our staff in some form or another, we're doing outreach. And then when we work with Caltrans, they also require that when we're on their property. So it's being provided at all levels.
Yeah, and just to affirm that, I mean, that is, this is a pretty, it's a work in progress, and we're always looking to improve this, but that is the case. And, as the service provider in many of the cases, not all the cases, but in many of the cases, we are sort of helping to triage to the specific question of where do individuals go. There's a lot of answers to that. Obviously we offer anything that's available. There are often resources, though limited, like it's not just a place to go, that's shelter. It's other resources as well, whether it's PPE for COVID. I mean, we are sort of well-versed in sort of making sure that we can do anything else to build bridges and build trust as a system, not just as an agency. Like that is our goal, is to sort of like, we're here to help. And the truth is that oftentimes it does kind of move along. It's a little bit of sort of the, if it pops up elsewhere, that's just the way it is. That's why I think particularly with this wrap, we saw that happen when we were doing some, clear outs, with the fire encampments, right? So that's sort of how that works. And we offer them whatever is available. And the truth of the matter is that not everybody is willing to go to shelter. Our organizational experience is, our number is about 85%, we think, take us up. If there's a legit option for them to go, by and large, people take us up on that. And no matter what city we work in, across our organization, across the years, that holds true. Now, if they can't go there, maybe they were kicked out before. Lots of reasons of why they may say no to that offer. So when the beds are available, we do offer. There's not enough beds for everybody. So we do prioritize everything that's available, but that is what we're offering when we go out. So Chris is right. Lorraine's exactly right. So that is sort of how it works. Will continue. And once the Rose Garden project ends in the, in this area of town, some of our staff will be repurposed back into sort of responding to these calls. So we'll have more bodies out doing sort of the general outreach. And again, these are requests through the website, right? Or phone, however they're getting into this system, it's driven by opportunities. Some may see the complaints, but the opportunities will come in and we will go as directed. So to the residents that are on the call, if you see people in need, and we'd love to help, but they got to be on our radar, because as you can see, they will pop up around the city, and we will be directed to go where the opportunities exist to help people.
Great. Thank you all for that information. Marilyn and Jane, I want to make sure that those adequately answered your questions. So someone in need might be someone who looks like they are in need of outreach assistance, perhaps a healthcare concern or something like that, and will be deployed to the appropriate outreach teams. But it is exciting to hear and to know that CityNet will have some more increased outreach capacity to be able to respond to these requests around the city, to be able to do outreach to encampments, to provide opportunities for case management, for shelter. And am I correct in saying that it will be 4 outreach team members for the city, or accurate
You're
number?
going to ask that question. It's been a
Sorry to
minute, and
put
I
you on
have
the
Rose
spot.
Garden on the brain.
Totally okay. We know it will be some people. We know it'll be a team. So I'm excited
Do
about
you
that.
remember that, the answer to that, technically speaking? And not to put you on the spot either, but it's multiple teams,
Yeah,
but I forget off the top of my head.
all good. Thank you. Yeah, so again, just to confirm and answer some more of Jane's questions in the chat, the Rose Garden Inn project ends this weekend. Folks will be checking out on the 31st at 11 a.m. And there's a variety of different places that individuals will go with some of the outbreak concerns. PATH had a COVID outbreak, and so their ability to take in intakes has decreased. But obviously still in conversation with folks will continue to be able to move individuals who agreed to a PATH shelter option when PATH reopens, if I'm correct. Brad, can you provide a little bit more information? I don't think Al is still on the call.
Yeah, no, Al is heading to the Rose Garden. It will be a variety of things. As you heard, even as late as last night, we got one housing opportunity. So a number of folks are going to be transitioning. I know there were a lot of people. There's a lot. I don't know the specifics to quote them with the specificity that would be appropriate for right now. But in general, most of the people are document ready, which means if something pops up, we're ready to jump on it right now, tomorrow, Monday, whenever. We are checking out at 11 o'clock on Monday, checkout time. We are out on Monday at 11. So the transition is happening today, tomorrow, Saturday, and this weekend. So there's transitioning, and it is going to, a number of folks are going to the streets, unfortunately. We hope that that doesn't cause setbacks of their sort of, we're helping them with the documents and things that are necessary. Some people will be okay with that. A number of people, unfortunately, will probably not do well in that situation. We can't, and a number are going to other shelter bed locations. So the vast majority of people are going to what we consider positive next steps. Nobody is going to get dropped from our undivided attention, not a person. So a person, even if they go to the streets, they have all of our cell phone numbers. They know how to get a hold of us. We're not dropping them at all.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Brad, and for your hard work with clients, wherever they are, wherever they're ending up. And then just to raise one last question from the chat for the folks who will be watching the recording. If you see someone who's panhandling, who's not aggressively panhandling, that is a perfect kind of report for that individual in need. Looking for resources, please do drop that pin in the encampment report and the individual in need reporting link, and someone will be able to do outreach to that individual. And to some points about the homelessness response directory overall, to some of the conversations we're having right now, we added a couple updates to that directory to provide just added clarity about fire-prone encampments, what to do in situations when it's a fire-prone encampment, what to do when the encampment seems, if it's an active fire, obviously, please call 911, but there are some added pieces that you can report it through the encamping link just to provide some added clarity, as well as added the Father Virgil Cordano Day Center to the resource guide, to the resource list on the back, because of some of the incredible options that it provides for folks needing somewhere to go during the day, who need mail services, who need laundry services. There are some resources connected as well. And then also added some information about our neighborhood navigation centers to the back of that list. So if you are encountering individuals in your daily life, being able to refer them to neighborhood navigation centers for added resources. Yes, Conrad, your question, percentages of those going back to streets, to shelters, and those who are getting permanent housing. Emily Koval, the resident CityNet data person, will be able to provide some updates in the coming weeks about that when she is able to be back in action on the wrap. And then,
Can I add to that, Kayla?
Yeah, of course.
We do plan on putting together an impact report. We did one similar to a 2-year initiative that we worked on with CityNet and Cottage Hospital, where we outlined the number of people that got served and housed, and so it's like a one-pager with all the relevant statistics. So we do plan on putting something similar together for this project that we will share when it's available. Right now, everything changes from day to day with this project, so we want to be absolutely sure about where things end up at the end. And then the other question that came up about the beds, I don't know if you saw that one. It was a while back. It might have gotten missed from Aaron Drake. If there's a directory that shows the available shelter beds. I think you were talking about that. I'm trying to find the link for the resource directory that you were mentioning. So I'll post that. It is due for an update. Kayla did send me one this morning, so I'll have to send that to our website team to get that updated. We don't have like a directory of open beds. Like we can't tell you how many beds are open at PATH today. We would love to have that ability, but we don't have that. It's a constant communication between the groups, but putting in a directory of some sort would be extremely challenging. But we do have the resources, just of the shelters in town, that I'll post in a second.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Liz. And it's a good question about knowing the number of shelter beds available at any time, but because that scene can be so dynamic, it changes every week. And with this ongoing kind of COVID situation that shelters are dealing with and some of the limitations they have as a result of outbreaks, I know when the rescue mission has an outbreak, they are unable to take on new intake. So the landscape changes, but knowing the available resources for emergency shelter beds to be able to make phone calls or referrals is always incredibly helpful. And that information is on the directory that Liz just posted in the chat. It's also, again, available on the city website. And then I don't want to miss Jane's other question in the chat. Of the folks who are returning to the street from the Rose Garden Inn, is that they're due to their choice? I would say it's a mix. But Brad, again, I'll turn that to you. You know best.
It's a mix. I mean, we definitely had options available to us that we were exploring. I just texted Alan, he just confirmed. Everybody that is a current resident at the Rose Garden had a plan that had a number of options, so in terms of, so it could have been a shelter bed. There were enough beds available for us to sort of, if they said yes, we could make it work. It was a calculus problem because we didn't necessarily have, for example, 36 beds available at PATH as an example, right? So, but we also have some county dollars that we're using to do bridge housing. So if somebody's really close, another option, I didn't refer to this earlier, is we do have county funding. So a number of these will go to scattered site bridging, where we will sort of do the same kind of model without staffing. But so sort of the bigger question, and I won't talk long about this, but the idea that from our point of view is system flow, right? Is the idea is what we really need is, it'd be amazing if we just had enough housing, we just moved everybody in. Data would show that that's housing first. That is always a roof over somebody's head every time is the right answer. That being said, there is a percentage of people that going right into housing, it doesn't stick. That's the beauty of something like a Rose Garden, even more than an emergency shelter like PATH, is it shows, what we were doing from encampment to Rose Garden is we were preparing people to move into apartment complexes or rooms for rent across the city, ready to go, and they would be highly successful in that transition. And that we're seeing is 100% the case. So, in the ideal world, those that are really ready, we will bridge them in the county project. Again, this is not quite as simple as us deciding. There's IS regs, there's lots of system dynamics that come into the calculus problem, but there are a number of things that are offering. Some people, though, to probably the question behind the question, some people will choose to not, what their perception is in that continuum of care where we want system flow, they're going to perceive going to PATH as a step backwards. And for the same reason, they might not have gone to PATH to begin with, particularly in COVID, where it's like, wait a second, that's a congregate warehouse where COVID is running wild. It's a challenging environment, right? I mean, it's a critical resource. We use PATH all the time. Our teams are there all the time, but it's not an isolated room where they can kind of keep their stuff together, stay safe and healthy. They may perceive that as a step backwards. So it kind of goes back to that same question that CityNet case managers have every day is the options we have to give people do make a difference.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, because people make that judgment on the spectrum of what they're willing to do. And sometimes going to a congregate shelter like that is not something they in particular are willing to do. There's my answer.
Brad, thank you for that. All that dimensionality is incredibly helpful and incredibly important. And I think provides an opportunity to give a quick update. In all of our other regional action plan meetings this week, we allotted a little bit of time to talk about Dignity Moves. So Sylvia Barnard, Executive Director, Good Samaritan Shelters, was able to come to our Neighborhood Navigation Center Regional Action Plan meeting on Monday morning and just share a little bit of an update about the Dignity Moves bridge housing project that will be coming to the city of Santa Barbara. It looks like kind of an early April, mid-April start date, which is incredibly exciting. And so some of you have been a part of the conversation since its inception of this idea of Dignity Moves coming onto county property in the city of Santa Barbara, able to have 32 units prioritized for the geographical region of the Santa Barbara city residents. Jeff, do you want to speak to some of the highlights from that presentation? I don't want to pull it up and share it right now because we've got a couple other things to share and I want to make sure we get out on time, but any highlights from that presentation, please go ahead.
Well, I think it'd be great if we presented it next week. So I think if we were, I think it was about a 15-minute presentation when you break it all down. So I think it's really helpful because Sylvia Bernard, the Executive Director of Good Samaritan, is doing the presentation. So as proven by the hotel project on Upper State, people will go into these modular units. And so the idea is for those who have been chronic and vulnerable the longest, to move them into a site where they have the site for 3 years, where they have case management, they have security, there's one entrance point, they'll be working with behavioral wellness. So the key is to get everyone that we think to get everyone into the coordinated entry system first. And then if they can become clients of behavioral wellness, if they're at that level, then that gives them a point toward getting in, as well as residency connected to downtown, connected to Santa Barbara. So we're excited about the project. I think their goal was 66 individuals served over 3 years, because they have 33 units. And how many were you remember the permanent housing goals, Kayla, at all?
We'll be able to show the presentation and that will have a PowerPoint. So I do want to, we'll make sure that we put that on the agenda for next week or the weeks following to be able to provide some accurate statistical information.
So I think the important point of this, and I think Brad would agree with me, is we're beginning to create what we call system flow. As you know, many of these people on Upper State or just on state as a whole are already seeing their clients or the behavioral wellness clients, but there haven't been any options for them as far as where to go, especially during COVID as shelter beds have been shut down. The options have been sparse. So not only is Dignity Moves coming, but then a year after Dignity Moves opens, they're looking at potentially having a housing authority project open. So you could begin to see people going from these congregate shelters or shelters into housing, as well as a few other projects that are kind of in the works. So kind of, even though it's challenging times, it's an exciting time to see these things come together for us.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. And again, I'll circle back with Barbara about putting that on the agenda so that we can share the recording of that presentation and share some of that information. There's some cool diagrams too of what that Dignity Moves project will look like, and some added information about prioritization, again, based on folks who are in that coordinated entry system. So CityNet has their list. I'm sure Emily was talking about it earlier this week, list of folks that they want to nominate to be housed in that bridge housing project, those modular units, as well as behavioral wellness. There's some degree of prioritization for folks. They're still working out some of the kinks and some of just the finer details of how many individuals and what those channels of prioritization, but there'll be a referral system as well. It won't be a drop-in center. So, and there'll be on-site security maintained as well to to make sure that the impacts are mitigated for that downtown region, as well as not attracting comers and goers. There's one entrance. All of those are thoughtful parts of the design of Dignity Moves. So again, we'll share that presentation with you when we have a little bit more time in the agenda. The last couple of things, again, next week, community concerns wrap. So we'll be talking about some areas of concern, just going over areas of concern from prior meetings, Big Five parking lot, kind of what you're seeing in your neighborhood, to be able to pick a region to visit during site visit week in the third week of February. Also happening in the third, fourth week of February is the point in time count. That's been moved. It didn't happen yesterday. It's happening in February. So if you haven't already, please do sign up. The link to register is in the agenda. I'm also putting it in the chat now to be able, if you want to get out into your neighborhood, want to get out into the city of Santa Barbara bright and early on a Wednesday morning, to go talk to folks, meet people, assess, enter some of their data, work with the team to really collect incredibly timely and incredibly important data on how many individuals are experiencing homelessness in our city and in our county. Please do join us for the point in time count. You can join with a couple other residents. If you've got some friends who want to join with you, pick a team name and you can sign up as a group. They are encouraging, obviously they'll take individuals, but encouraging signups in groups just to maintain some COVID precautions with people who might be people you normally spend time around. So if you have questions about the point in time count, please don't hesitate to reach out to Barbara or myself. But we'll see you on Wednesday, February 23rd, bright and early. Please do continue using the links for reporting individuals in need or encampments. Yes, Conrad, you can sign up for certain areas. So as part of the sign up, if you go to that registration link, you'll be able to choose just general priority regions such as west of State Street, east of State Street. But you can also enter in one of their text fields a more specific region that you'd like to be in, as well as if you're on a team, you can put your team name in those text fields as well. And organizers will be paying attention to all of that. So if you want to be in the upper state region, you tell them in the text field that that's where you want to be. And they'll do their best. Obviously, it's not quite always a perfect system. I don't want to promise that for the county, but I know that I'll be in the East Side region with some East Side residents and service providers. Jeff will be in the waterfront region, counting individuals with some waterfront business owners. So it is special and important to be in the regions that you already know and get to be acquainted with some folks that you might already see on a day-to-day basis. So all this to say, it's the last week of the month. So we'll be seeing each other in a new month for the first week of the month. So community concerns the following week. So next meeting, we'll make sure to share a little bit about the Dignity Moves project and all of the work that's been going into that. And yes, Kristen, I second that. To be a part of the point in time count is incredibly important. It provides helpful data to reinforce what we know from our homelessness management information system. It just provides further reinforcement for what we know, to be able to learn more about individuals, to provide them what they need, to even know how many individuals we see in Santa Barbara, especially this count, because it will be the first formal point in time count since January of 2020, a very different time. And probably we'll be able to see some of the impacts of the pandemic on this population. Any other questions before I let us go just a little bit early? If you have added questions for Brad or for CityNet, Emily will be on further calls. I believe you have emails, but I'll put my email in the chat as well, so that you can reach me if you have added questions or concerns or areas of concern to raise, to call for outreach as well. But
Just make a comment also. Thank you. So this is pretty incredible to, I think if people haven't been involved in this before SB Act, and really it's been a couple years coming, but this exactly right here, talking about the system flow and people being coordinated, and even these meetings where you have everybody coming together and really talking about individuals and how to meet those needs, and then that community wide with the GIS and the reporting. And this is phenomenal. I'm not sure that, people when they jump in at this point, and I think a lot of people on this call came because of issues because of the Rose Garden Inn, but to see this coordination and the system flow that is finally in place is really to the credit of SB Act being our hub for being able to coordinate all of these services and really getting them to the individuals, and then the partnership with the city and the county and all the different entities. It's just this meeting in particular, I think, has really highlighted how well coordinated the system is, and that's new. And just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you. And it's a gift, and it's exciting to see all of these kind of projects coming together, lining up, that we're not quite there yet. But being able to see that systems flow from the potential of Dignity moves to the Housing Authority's new Veracruz Village, or whatever the case may be, having units that people can move into. So that, Jane, again, circling back to your point, that when someone is visiting an encampment, they're able to offer them a variety of options that individual might be willing to accept, whether it is a bed at Path or services with Be Well, being able to have this range of offerings for folks to see real progress and real change and transitions into the kind of housing that individuals need to be supported. So I want to say thank you to all of you for your time. I know 10 a.m. on a Thursday, you could be doing a variety of other things, but you chose to be with us today. And the recording will be available. Barbara will be distributing that in the next email, along with the agenda for the next meeting. It's also, again, all of our past meetings are available on SBX YouTube. So if you want to watch them all at one time, you are welcome to. But again, thank you for your time, and thanks to CityNet and other providers on this call and not for all of your hard work. Thanks. And have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.